Ever wondered how buyers identify hidden legal issues in a business acquisition? As an M&A lawyer, I will show you the key legal red flags that we look out for to make sure that our buyer clients know if buying that business is a good idea or not. I'm Malcolm Zoppi, an English qualified solicitor, and in this video, we'll discuss the top 3 things to look out for when conducting due diligence on your business. We'll discuss what kind of questions you should ask the seller of a business, what kind of answers you should expect to hear back, and what documents you should request and inspect. But before we get started, it is important to note that it's up to buyers to conduct due diligence on the business that they're looking to buy. It is not the responsibility of the seller to tell you of the issues with the business. So that's why due diligence is so important. But what is due diligence? In short, it's when the buyer investigates the business that they are looking to buy to get a better understanding of exactly what they are buying. Usually buyers appoint advisors, such as lawyers and accountants, to conduct due diligence on their behalf. Fantastic, now let's get started. First, let's talk about customer and supplier contracts. The question that you should ask the seller of a business is whether the customers and the suppliers have the right to terminate their contracts with the business that you're looking to buy because of a change of control. Usually contracts define a change of control as more than 50% of the shares being sold to someone else. The ideal answer that you would get from a seller is no, they do not have such a right. This avoids you taking over a business with important clients and suppliers, and the day that you take over the business is the day that customers and suppliers terminate their contract with the business. But what kind of documents should you request to satisfy yourself of the seller's answers? First, ideally, the company's standard terms of business. And secondly, the main contracts with the major suppliers of the business. As a top tip, also make sure that none of the business's major customers or suppliers are owned or controlled by the sellers of this business that you're looking to buy. Great, now let's move on to intellectual property. Question: does the company only use its own intellectual property, which is properly registered? The ideal answer is yes, the company owns its intellectual property, only uses its own intellectual property, so it doesn't have to license the IP of a third party, and that owned intellectual property is registered properly, for example, at the Intellectual Property Office. Regarding the document that you might want to request, typically when it comes to, for example, trademarks, you would want to see a certificate from the UK IPO. You want to make sure that the registered owner of that trademark, for example, is actually the company that you're buying and not a separate entity. Now, before we move on to the third main thing that you would want to discuss with the seller, keep in mind that we're only talking about 3 main questions out of dozens. If you want to learn about more questions that you would want to ask the seller of a business, make sure to download my free legal due diligence questionnaire now. It's linked in the description. Lastly, litigation and disputes. The question should be, is the company party to any litigation, or are there reasons to believe that someone will bring a claim against the company? Of course, the ideal answer should be no, but in the event that it's yes, there are claims, then you'll want to inspect all the documents related to those claims. For example, any formal letters that have been sent, and if there are claims with the courts already, for example, the particulars of claim. For example, if you're looking to buy a company that provides professional services, typically it's likely that the company will benefit from professional indemnity insurance. In such a case, you'll want to inspect the records of claims that have been made against that policy. This will give you an idea of how well run the business was and whether you should be expecting claims to come in the future. If there's a history of claims, chances are there'll be claims in the future. But I'm interested in knowing your thoughts. What is important to you when buying a business? What would be a deal breaker? And what has made you step away from a deal in the past? Conducting proper due diligence is just one of multiple strategies that you can implement to minimize your risks when buying a business. To learn about the other strategies, make sure to watch this video right here. Thanks for watching.